It's raining again. And to be honest, I'm terrified of rain. I never leave the house when it storms outside. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help it. I used to love watching raindrops race down the windows. Now, I keep my curtains pulled tight, blocking out the view. I wish I could tell you what made me this way, partly to warn you and partly to prove it to myself, but I can't. All I can do is share my story, like a fairy tale, one that most would forget in a week. But I won't forget. I'll never forget. Back in 2012, I was a 21-year-old college student. I was crazy about nature and everything wild. As a kid, I would roam through tree lines, dreaming of mythical creatures and fantastic monsters. Fast forward to 2012, and I was studying forestry, determined to protect those magical places I loved. My passion for the outdoors made me confident. I believed I was invincible in the arms of nature, surrounded by its beauty and tranquility. One day, my professor announced a chance for extra credit. He suggested we spend our break hiking some trails to remind ourselves why we loved nature in the first place. As an avid hiker, I knew a great trail a few hours from our town, one that was mostly empty except for the occasional park ranger. I figured we wouldn't see many people out there. "Hey Lily, want to join me on a trip to the preserve?" I asked as the school day ended. Lily was a sweet girl with long brown hair and gentle green eyes. She was the kind of beautiful person who caught attention but rarely spoke up. A compliment or joke would make her smile, but she didn't often engage. That made me want to be closer to her. We had been friends for a while, and while I wasn't sure if there was any romance in the air, we had a connection. "Sure, just let me know when," she replied, smiling softly. I returned her smile, hoping our trip would be fun. A few days later, we packed our supplies and set off in my small car, bags tied down on the roof. By the time we arrived, it was mid-afternoon. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as families strolled by, some walking dogs, others setting up picnics, and some simply exploring the paths. "I thought you said it would be quiet," Lily teased, laughing lightly. I rolled my eyes, waving a hand dismissively. "I'm sure these people won't be hiking for long. It'll get quiet soon." We made our way to the trail entrance, where a ranger was standing by. "You two heading in?" he asked, his tone friendly. "Yeah," I replied, a bit unsure. "Great. Just give me your names. Here's my card if you need anything. There are ranger shacks deeper in the park. Feel free to use them, just clean up after yourself." "Thanks. I'm Max, and this is Lily," I said, introducing us. "Enjoy your hike," he said with a smile, and we started down the trail. Our first day was peaceful. There's something freeing about hiking with no time limits. All your worries just slip away. No bills, no homework, just nature, except for avoiding snakes and strange plants. The trees towered overhead, their leaves whispering secrets in the gentle breeze. As the sun dipped behind the trees and the temperature dropped, Lily said, "Let's find a place to set up camp." I nodded, spotting a small clearing made by previous hikers. We quickly pitched our tents and lit a small fire. After all that walking, we were glad to relax. Lily plopped down across the fire from me and pulled out a granola bar. "This place is really beautiful," she said, taking a bite. "Yeah, but I haven't seen many animals yet," I replied, unwrapping my snack. Just then, I glanced at the darkening woods behind Lily and froze. I thought I saw something, the size of a small animal, lurking in the shadows. But as I squinted, it seemed to vanish. "Everything okay?" Lily asked, noticing my stare. I laughed softly, feeling silly. "Yeah, just thought I saw something, maybe a rabbit." She looked over her shoulder, but didn't see anything. We finished our meal, put out the fire, and crawled into our separate tents. I fell asleep almost instantly, exhausted from the hike. In the morning, I stumbled out of my tent, nearly tripping on the edge of the fabric. The hot summer sun hit me hard, casting rays of light that danced through the trees. "We should watch out for snakes," Lily said softly as she cleaned up. "Did you see one?" I asked, trying to wipe the sleep from my eyes. "I think so. I heard something rubbing against my tent last night," she replied. "It felt pretty thick." I made a mental note, but didn't let it bother me as we continued our hike. As we walked, I noticed the sky darkening. A low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, causing my heart to race. "Looks like a storm is coming," I said. "Yeah, I feel it too," Lily replied just as a loud thunderclap shook the air. The ground trembled beneath us, and a few raindrops began to fall. "Let's find shelter," I shouted, glancing at Lily. She began to jog down the trail, and I followed closely behind. But soon, the rain started pouring, soaking us to the bone. The path became slippery, and I struggled to keep my footing. "We should find that ranger shack," Lily yelled over the deafening noise of the storm. "Good idea. It should be just ahead," I replied, pushing myself to keep up with her. The rain pelted us like small stones, the cold seeping into my clothes. Finally, we spotted the outline of a ranger shack in the distance, partially hidden by the trees. We sprinted toward it, laughing nervously as we stumbled inside, gasping for breath. Once inside, we shook off the rain, trying to warm ourselves in the cramped space. The shack was dimly lit and smelled of damp wood and old paper. A few chairs were strewn about, and a small table was cluttered with maps and pamphlets about the park. "This is cozy," Lily said, grinning despite the situation. I chuckled, trying to keep the mood light. "At least we're out of the rain, right?" The storm raged outside, the wind howling as it whipped through the trees. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the storm's fury. My thoughts drifted, and I suddenly recalled the ranger's warning about strange happenings in the woods. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought. I didn't believe in ghost stories, but something about the storm felt unsettling. As the rain continued, I looked out the window and noticed the trees swaying violently. In the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow moving behind the trees. My heart raced, and I turned to Lily. "Did you see that?" She followed my gaze, her expression turning serious. "What are you talking about?" "I swear I saw something out there," I said, my voice shaky. "Like a person." "Max, it's probably just a trick of the light or the wind," she reassured me, but her voice lacked certainty. We sat in silence, the storm's roar filling the air. Minutes turned into what felt like hours, and just as I began to relax, the wind howled louder, rattling the shack. Suddenly, the door swung open with a loud creak. We both jumped, fear flooding our senses. I stood up, ready to close it, when I saw a figure standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the storm. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Just me," a raspy voice replied, emerging from the rain. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a man with wild hair and muddy clothes. He looked disheveled and lost. "What do you want?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I'm lost," he said, glancing nervously at the storm outside. "I was hiking and got caught in the rain. I thought I could find shelter here." Reluctantly, I let him in, locking the door behind him. There was something unsettling about him, his eyes darting around the shack as if he were searching for something. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to sound calm. He nodded, but seemed distant. I saw something out there, in the woods. I exchanged a glance with Lily, who was equally uneasy. What did you see? He hesitated, swallowing hard. It looked like a woman. She was just standing there, staring at me. Then she vanished into the trees. My heart dropped. I remembered the stories about the preserve, whispered among locals about a ghostly woman who haunted the woods, luring unsuspecting hikers to their doom. Maybe it's just a myth, Lily said, her voice trembling. Right? But I wasn't so sure. The air around us felt thick with unease, the storm's rage mirroring my rising dread. The man's eyes widened. I swear I heard her calling my name. I stepped back, feeling the weight of fear settle in my chest. What's your name? Derek, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Suddenly, the wind picked up, and the shack rattled as if a great force were trying to break in. We huddled together, the three of us on edge. Then, a sudden crash echoed outside. I gasped, fearing the worst. We need to get out of here, I said, adrenaline rushing through me. Just as I turned to open the door, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, echoing through the storm. It wasn't human, it was primal, raw, and full of pain. The sound sent chills down my spine. Stay close, I shouted, my instincts kicking in. I flung the door open, the storm crashing in, and the rain stung my skin like needles. Go, I yelled, urging Lily and Derek to follow me. We sprinted into the woods, dodging branches and mud, the screams still echoing in our ears. I didn't know where we were going, but I couldn't let the fear consume me. I glanced back at the shack, seeing a figure standing in the doorway, illuminated by the lightning. Run, I yelled again, pushing forward. The darkness closed in around us, the trees towering overhead like ancient giants. Every snap of a twig sent my heart racing. Max, Lily screamed, her voice filled with terror. I turned to see her struggling to keep pace. Stay with me, I shouted, grabbing her hand as we stumbled through the thick underbrush. The forest felt alive, every shadow and rustle fueling my fear. I could feel the presence behind us, something chasing us. I glanced back one last time, but there was nothing there. Just the dark void of the woods, filled with the echoes of the storm. Where are we going? Lily panted, fear evident in her eyes. Just keep moving, I shouted, my voice breaking. We ran for what felt like an eternity until we stumbled onto an old path. This must lead to the main road, I said, my heart racing with hope. We followed the path, panting heavily, drenched in rain. The sound of thunder boomed overhead, but we pressed on, desperate to escape. Finally, we reached the end of the trail and saw the main road ahead. I glanced back into the darkness of the trees, my heart pounding in my chest. I think we're safe, I breathed, relieved. But as we stepped onto the road, I heard a faint whisper carried by the wind. It was a woman's voice, sweet yet haunting. Help me, it echoed, sending shivers down my spine. I turned to Lily, panic rising. Did you hear that? Yes, she replied, eyes wide with terror. Just then, headlights appeared in the distance, and I waved my arms frantically, hoping the driver would see us. A car pulled up beside us, and I rushed to the window. Please help us. We need to get out of here. The driver, an older man with a confused expression, nodded and opened the door. Get in. We jumped into the car, and I slammed the door shut behind us, glancing back at the woods. The whispers faded as we sped away, the storm still raging behind us. As we drove away from the preserve, I could still feel the weight of that darkness pressing against my mind. Lily turned to me, shaking. What just happened back there? I shook my head, unable to find the words. All I knew was that the rain had changed me. I didn't just fear the storm, I feared what lurked within it. The rest of the drive was silent. All I could hear was the rain pounding against the roof of the car, a constant reminder of the horrors we'd faced. After what felt like an eternity, we reached our college town, the familiar lights and sounds breaking the spell of fear that clung to us. But even as I stepped out of the car, I felt the whispers lingering in the air, a haunting melody that would never truly leave me. As the storm faded behind us, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had escaped something terrible, but the rain would always remind me of that day, the day I learned that some places are best left untouched, their secrets buried deep beneath the surface. I've returned to my routines, my classes, and my friends. But whenever it rains, I find myself staring out the window, waiting for the whispers to return. I'll never forget the horror of that night, or the girl. I never really knew what she felt as she stood in the shadows of the trees, forever watching. And that's the thing about rain, it has a way of bringing the past back, the echoes of our choices, and the darkness we can never quite escape. Over there, Lily yelled, her voice cutting through the heavy rain as she pointed to a small cabin off the main path. A thrill of excitement shot through me, pushing me to sprint after her, my feet splashing through the thick mud that coated the ground. The forest was alive with the sound of raindrops pounding against leaves, creating a symphony of nature's fury. Just as I was about to reach her, my foot slipped in the muck, sending me tumbling face first into the wet earth. I lay there for a moment, stunned, the cold mud seeping through my clothes. As I blinked away the shock, I looked down at my feet and noticed something peculiar, a thin root partially buried in the mud. But there was something distinctly odd about it. It wasn't just a root, it appeared to be moving. My heart raced as panic flooded my senses. Oh no, I tripped over a snake, I thought, feeling icy chills race down my spine. In an instant, I sprang to my feet, the mud sliding off my skin as I raced towards the cabin, desperate to escape whatever lurked beneath the surface. Inside the cabin, I found Lily already there, a smile playing on her lips as she surveyed my muddy state. "Did you have a wrestling match with the ground?" she teased, laughter dancing in her eyes. "Very funny," I replied, trying to brush the mud off my face, but only succeeding in smearing it further. "I think I met one of those snakes you mentioned." Lily grinned, clearly enjoying my misfortune, as she rummaged through her pack for some towels. The cabin was old and empty, its walls weathered and peeling, with just a rusty stove standing in one corner. A sense of abandonment lingered in the air, adding a layer of eeriness to our unexpected shelter. "Here, clean yourself up," she said, handing me some towels. I scrubbed my face, feeling grateful for her kindness. The soft fabric against my skin was a relief from the cold mud. "It looks awful outside," I remarked, glancing out the window. The rain poured heavily, transforming dirt into rivers that snaked through the forest floor. The once vibrant green of the leaves now appeared dull and heavy, weighed down by the deluge. "Yeah," Lily replied with a sigh, her expression turning serious for a moment. The atmosphere inside the cabin felt heavier, as if the rain itself was warning us of something beyond our understanding. But then, something caught my eye. Right where I had tripped, something was sticking up from the ground, a small pillar breaking through the mud. Curiosity piqued. I wiped the window to see better. It looked like a thick branch sticking out of the earth, but with smaller twigs jutting out at odd angles. "Hey, come look at this," I called to Lily, my voice barely above a whisper. "What is it? Is it the snake?" she asked, standing up and approaching the window with a mixture of apprehension and intrigue. I don't think so. It looks strange, I replied, my heart pounding as I leaned closer to get a better view. Lily walked over and peered outside, squinting through the rain-smeared glass. Is that a broken tree root? She wondered aloud, her brow furrowing with concern. I'm not sure, I admitted, watching the rain wash away the mud as the object became clearer. My breath hitched as I noticed it was a pale shade of gray, stark against the dark earth. Oh my God, Lily gasped, covering her mouth with her hand as her eyes widened in shock. What is it? Look at the end, she said, her voice shaky. I focused my gaze, and an icy dread washed over me as I realized what I was staring at. It was an arm reaching out of the ground, frozen in place, as still as stone. My stomach churned as I struggled to comprehend what lay before us. Oh my God, I whispered, my voice trembling as I took a step back from the window. We should call the Rangers. Where's their card? She asked, stretching out her hand, her face pale and her composure faltering. I fumbled in my pocket, my fingers trembling as I retrieved the wet card. Without hesitation, Lily dialed the number, her voice rising in urgency. Hello. We need to report something on one of the trails, she said, pacing nervously in the cramped cabin. What's the number next to the door? The ranger on the other end asked, his tone professional but with a hint of concern. I forced myself to step outside, determined to shake off the eerie feeling creeping in. As I stood at the door, I could see the arm clearly now. It was smooth, with clean, trimmed nails too pristine to belong to someone who had been buried in the mud. The rain splashed against it, soaking it, but it didn't seem to wash away, as if the ground had claimed it as its own. I took a deep breath, the weight of dread settling in my chest as I repeated the cabin number in my head, trying to maintain some semblance of clarity. Just then, a loud clap of thunder echoed behind me, making me jump and causing Lily to squeal in surprise. Maybe we should just go back to the main path, she suggested, her voice trembling slightly as she peeked over my shoulder. I don't think we should be out here anymore. But my curiosity outweighed my fear. I had to know more. Wait, I said, stepping cautiously closer to the arm, which seemed to beckon me with an unspoken invitation. What if it's a prank? Someone could have buried a mannequin or something to scare hikers. I don't think it's a prank, Lily insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. It looks too real. She gripped the door frame, her knuckles white from tension. The rain continued to fall, creating a steady rhythm that echoed in my ears. And as I approached the strange objects, I felt the world around me fade away. I knelt beside the arm, reaching out a hesitant hand. The ground was cold, and I could see faint outlines in the mud where the rest of the body might be buried. Lily, come look at this, I called again, my heart racing as I dug my fingers into the earth. I think there's more. Don't touch it, she shouted, her voice laced with panic. What if it's dangerous? But I was already digging, a primal urge to uncover the truth driving me forward. The mud was slick and heavy, clumping under my fingernails as I pushed aside the dirt. I had to know what this was, what it meant. As I cleared more mud away, the rain continued to wash over us, creating a slick sheen on everything around. Suddenly, I felt a sharp jolt as something hard and unyielding pressed against my palm. My heart dropped, and I pulled back, instinctively shielding my face from the potential horror. What is it? Lily asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, I stammered, but I couldn't resist. My curiosity was a powerful force, urging me onward. Please, let's just go, she begged, looking terrified. I have a really bad feeling about this. Ignoring her pleas, I continued to dig. As the last of the mud fell away, I gasped, revealing a shoulder and a neck, pale skin glistening in the rain. The realization hit me like a cold wave. This was not a mannequin, nor a prank. This was real, and it was horrifying. "We need to call the Rangers again," Lily shouted, backing away from the sight, her eyes wide with fear. "We need to get out of here." "I can't just leave it," I protested, feeling a surge of adrenaline course through me. "We have to help." Before I could react, Lily grabbed my arm and pulled me back towards the cabin. "You're not thinking straight. This is insane." I stumbled, torn between my desire to uncover the truth and the overwhelming urge to flee. Just then, the rain began to pour harder, and a chill ran down my spine. The forest around us felt alive, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for us to make our next move. Okay, I finally conceded, feeling a wave of unease settle over me. "Let's go back to the main path and wait for the Rangers." Together, we retreated into the cabin, glancing back at the rain-soaked ground one last time. The arm lay there, still as stone, a haunting reminder of the secrets buried beneath the mud. As we waited for help, the thunder rumbled overhead, and the world outside continued to pour down, the rain washing away our footsteps, but not the chilling memory of what we had discovered.